Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Bold Unstoppable Show. I have some wonderful panelists with me, three ladies here, and we are going to be talking a little bit about embracing being a bold, unstoppable woman in today's society. So I'm giving you a warm welcome. I want all the trailblazers and the incredible, bold, unstoppable women to just tune in, give yourself a moment because embracing being a bold, unstoppable woman in today's society is not as easy as you may think. So, together with me and my beautiful panelists, and all of you that are watching and listening to us, we're going to uncover the secrets that fuel our inner fire, share stories that defy the ordinary, and celebrate the extraordinary journey of being unapologetically those bold, unstoppable chicks. I'm Rochele Lawson, the queen of feeling fabulous. And here is where we ignite the spark of possibility and fan the flames of success. Now, the question I have all of you listening and watching is, are you ready to embrace your bold, unstoppable self? If you are, let's just dive right into the conversation. But first, I want the panelists to introduce themselves. So let's start with Crystal. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Rochelle. I'm Crystal Renee, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, speaker, author, business coach, and brand strategist. And I teach entrepreneurs how to monetize their expertise and create multiple income streams.
Love it. How about you, Miss Laura DeFranco?
Thank you. I am the CEO of the award-winning Brave Healer Productions, a publisher for holistic health and wellness professionals.
And you, Miss Erin?
Well, hey, everybody. I'm Erin Harrigan. I am a Christian business coach for high achieving women in business and in the boardroom. And I teach them to redefine hustle so that they can make impact with their mission in the marketplace.
I love it. Okay, so this is our panelist, and we're gonna hit it tight, we're gonna hit it hard, and we're gonna leave you guys definitely wanting for more. It's like when you have an orgasm, you have that orgasm and you just want to keep having them. Well, this is what this show is all about. And you knew I was gonna bring that because the conversation before the show. But let me just dive in, and I wanna ask you. This is the question I'm gonna pose. Now, the definition of a bold, unstoppable woman has many definitions depending on where you are and who you are. Qualities, challenges, and solutions to overcome the challenges of being a bold, unstoppable woman is what I want us to talk about today. Now, and I want you to think about something that's really been impactful with you discovering your unstoppable self. Can you share a moment when you realized you were truly unstoppable? And then the second part to that is what did it mean to you and how did it feel? So, Laura, let's start with you.
Man, what a great question. Immediately, I thought that when I mastered some of my ninja moves of mindset, that's what I call them. That was what made me feel unstoppable. It was that day where you may have had a sucky thing happen, but you caught it so fast and you chose a different way to think or speak or behave. Like when that started happening, I was like, I got this. Yeah. And that's my short answer to that one.
Crystal, I want you to share.
I think for me, it was a moment, I guess not all so long ago, but a few years ago, where actually my mother told me that I would not be able to make it on my own after my divorce. And so I was like, I'll show her. And and I mean I did. I mean I was already making it. So it was kind of just like me just, stepping into my own and reclaiming who I was. And I really felt like I knew who I was then. Not that, you know what I mean? Like kind of like remembering who you are. That was kind of how I felt. And that was definitely a defining moment for me.
And Erin, what about for you?
Well, years ago, 24 and a half almost years ago, in fact, when I had my second child, natural childbirth, I was like, man, I can do anything with having this baby with no drugs, right? And then later, and this continues to happen to me, is like every time I take myself out of the way, right? And I let the Lord lead me, because that's what I'm all about. And I see him move, and I'm like, dang, Lord, like you could do this without me, but you choose to do this with me. I feel so unstoppable in those moments.
I love it. So now, what would you all say? And whoever wants to take the question and chime in is a free for all. What would you all say to some? Here's a go. What would you say to your 19-year-old self
Mm,
about discovering and embracing unapologetically being that bold, unstoppable woman? Whoever wants to take it, take it.
mm,
I'll go. I think for me, it would just be to don't be afraid to be who you are. I think, especially at that time, I was under a lot of pressure to do what what society thinks we
mm,
should do as
Mhm.
women. And I really wasn't doing what was best for me at that time. So, and I wasn't really being myself. So I would just say, don't be afraid to be yourself. Um, you know, Unapologetically accept the good, bad, and the ugly, and really live in that and move through that. And just it's all a journey. So don't be
mm,
afraid to have your journey be different than someone
mm.
else's.
I love it. I think when I was a very little girl, I realized that I was a bold, unstoppable little girl because I was always getting in trouble for my mouth. And I think always, because I always had something to say. If you asked me, I was going to say it, but I just said it. I didn't like sugarcoat it. I still don't. But I think when I was probably 4, and someone asked me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want to get married and have kids? And I'm like, no, I don't want to get married and have no kids. She looked at me and she was like, well, that's what all little girls want to aspire to. I said, well, I'm not like all little girls. I'm different. And I just turned around and walked away. Now, there's a curtail for that because it was an auntie. And she's like, girl, if you don't bring your tail back here and talk to me correctly. But I knew as a little girl that I was always going to do things my way. And I didn't really know what that definition was until I, realized that I was just a bold, brave, bold, unstoppable little girl. But sometimes it can be very hard for women that are brave and bold and unstoppable to release the binds and the chains that others have placed upon us,
That's right.
and not allow us to step into our true grace. And so this question is really about words of wisdom that you would share with someone, lady watching us or just going to be hearing us, that you would share with her about being unapologetic for being your true self, which is being bold and unstoppable.
Mm, mm.
You, Aaron, I want you to take that question.
Listen, what's coming up for me is when I was 19, I was doing two things. I mean, besides partying in college, I was looking left and right what everybody else was doing, because I thought, like Crystal said, right? Like, well, I got to be like them, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to look at my own gifts and talents, and so I would say to her, that 19-year-old, but I would say to the women watching, like, you were made on purpose for a purpose. Do not shy away from the gifts and the talents that you have and think they're not as good as someone else's, because you are the only you. And some people can only hear from you. So you can step boldly into the fact that you were fearfully and wonderfully made, and on purpose, for a purpose.
Mm, I love it. I love it. I think we need more inspiration and words of wisdom like that, particularly from our ladies that are in power positions of power. A lot of times we don't hear from these ladies until it's quote unquote election time. And of course, I'm bringing that up here in March. But, we really need to, I think, empower those little girls to be unapologetically for being that bold, unstoppable little girl, because those are the girls that grow up that create change in the world to make it a better place. Now, I want to ask you, ladies, this. We all face hurdles on our path to success. I know I have. I've faced numerous. I mean, if you've seen me, you heard some of my stories. But could you share a significant challenge that you've overcome and how it shaped you to be that bold, unstoppable woman that you are today?
Well,
Laura.
I want to answer the last one, because here's what I would say. You are beautiful, you are smart, you are enough, and you do not need a man to make you whole. And so that's my younger self, right? That hadn't stepped tall inside of her worthiness yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until much later in my adult life that I was able to step into that and take my power back. And if I had had some different teachers, different models, different whatever, but no regrets, right? Because everything is divine. There's probably one of the biggest lessons of my life has occurred in the last few years. And I think I'm going to try to sum it up. This is a tough one for me, but you fight for what is right and you fight out loud. And it may be scary as hell to do that, but you do it for you, and you stand up for those who don't have a voice. And that's part of how I want to show up in the world moving forward.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I know you've had some extreme challenges, and sometimes with those you love and care about, and sometimes it's really hard, but being that pillar of that bold and unstoppable woman, not only for yourself, but to support others, can be so pivotal for them in ways we don't even know about and may never ever find out about until later, or may never find out about. But just being that person where someone says, you know what? She was knocked down 75 times and she got up on the 76th time, and she commanded it like nobody would have ever thought, because she had been battled and bruised and hurt and felt ashamed and ridiculed for what she knew she was, which was a bold, unstoppable woman. So Erin, I'm going to ask you this question, because I know you are a lady of faith. And sometimes when you're a lady of faith, you shouldn't be bold and unstoppable. You're supposed to be secure, and you're supposed to be quiet, and you're supposed to follow what your man tells you you're supposed to do. Can you share some wisdom about that aspect?
Yeah, as a Christian woman, we're really called to be bold about our Lord. And that is really hard in today's world. And what I love that Laura says about having brave words, right? And that you got to step out and be brave. And so often I've run into so many women who have challenges building out business or whatever that looks like, because they've got challenges with money and challenges with worthiness and challenges with, like, should I even be stepping out because, I follow Jesus? Well, guess what, girl? He made you ambitious, but he didn't make you to work the way the world works. That's the difference. And so we can be bold and we can be brave in stepping out in that for my fellow women of faith. Because if you have a desire to create that business, to create that pathway, whatever that is, there is no doubt that God put that desire in you, but he may not want you. He doesn't want you to do it the way everybody else would do it. And just going back to your last question really quick, the thing that knocked me down was getting fired in 2012 and going through a massive wrongful termination lawsuit. And I was at the top of my game and I got fired. Primary breadwinner, right? Like, that will knock you down, especially when you have tied your identity to the money, to the title, to the stuff, to the luxury. So be careful where you anchor your identity.
I love that. I love that. Be careful where you anchor your identity. I know there's times that I got caught up in anchoring my identity into something or someone else. I didn't even realize it until I stepped back and realized, I don't even like this. I don't even like that person. but it was, I think, what I saw as a lifestyle that I envisioned and wanted, not realizing that what you see on the outside is not what's always on the inside. And so it is very, I want to say it's very humbling when you figure out that you've been idolizing someone that you thought was truly the epitome of where you want to be, and you find out they're piece of, then it's not where you really want to be. And so being able to break those barriers, speaking of breaking barriers, it does require you to be bold and unstoppable. when it comes to breaking barriers, particularly in today's society, we have so much going on, so much going on. And, if you turn on the news, negative news is on it all day, every day. It will bring you down. With regards to everything that's going on in our society, in some of the ladies we don't even hear about, particularly that are in these war-torn countries, um, what would you say to help them to stand in their grace and their power of being bold and unstoppable, even if it means they have to really dig in and dig down deep to accomplish that? Crystal.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. I was also meditating on the last question as well, but I think it kind of ties in together. The first thing is focus on what you can control, because I think that we get wrapped up in a lot of what we cannot control, and you will go insane trying to control what you cannot control. So that would be the first thing I would say, because I think that is so strongly rooted in, like you said, where we anchor ourselves in trying to inflict control on things that we honestly have no business touching sometimes. Um, but the second thing I would say is not to give up, and that there's always another way. When someone tells you no, when things seem impossible, there's always another way. There's always another door, and if there's not one there, you can always create your own. And I did want to tie into the last question of a challenge, which for me, well, one of my challenges was being a brick and mortar business owner during COVID. That was something that I could not control. And when someone tells you you can't operate, what do you do?
Right.
Like, there's no precedence for what you're experiencing. What does that mean? You don't even know what tomorrow's going to look like, or how things are going to shape up. So for me, it was important to focus on what I could control. And for me, it was important to think about the ways that I could affect change. And when there was no way, I was going to make my own way to be able to come out on the other side. So I think that is applicable in both situations. When it comes to standing in your grace, people are going to tell you no. People can tell you it's impossible. Trust and believe, fire was impossible, electricity was impossible, cars were impossible, shoes were impossible. So many things were impossible until they were possible. They were made possible by someone. So never forget that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's heartfelt words of wisdom like that that I think really pierces the veil of the facade that we all try to live in. Everybody tries to do that. Everybody does it, either whether they're knowingly doing it or they don't know that they're doing it. We all have this little facade. And so, with regards to getting through that facade, when you are a bold, unstoppable woman and you show up in the room, people recognize that you're a bold, unstoppable woman, especially those that are not bold, unstoppable women or have not realized that they have that bold, unstoppable nature within them. This question is about when it comes to the wisdom from failures. They say we learn the best information and wisdom from our failures. And a lot of times, I believe that failures are not failures; they're just lessons learned on how not to do something again. And Thomas Edison, what did he try to do the light bulb 10,000 times? Now he had help, and he had other people that were working on aspects to make him a success with regards to that. But when it comes to the wisdom of failures, as a bold, unstoppable woman, what would you share with the other bold, unstoppable women that are hiding behind that veil because they have failed, and it's really hard for them to get up and rise from that failure? And I'm going to have you, Erin, share some words of wisdom behind that.
So often we think we have a fear of failure, but we actually have a fear of success, because getting into that limelight, right? Like, it has its own things that we have to walk through. I wish people talked about failure more. I wish people talked about, I think there's a book called Fail Forward, which I feel like I've read, because there is so much to learn there. There is so much wisdom. And if we would allow ourselves to take that brick and add it to the foundation, right? Oh, there's another brick. I can add it to my foundation. Because being bold and unstoppable means the failure doesn't stop you. The failure allows you to tweak what you're doing or go in a different direction or realize this is my zone of genius, but that is not. So I think it's taking the opportunity to view failure. You know, we can say like, oh, it's an opportunity for a lesson, but like, how can it make you better instead of bitter?
I think you all know that my failures involved me at an early age. I did what I was supposed to do. I went to college, got a couple degrees, and I thought I was on a trajectory to do everything that had been pushed into my head since I was a little girl, which is getting an education. When you have an education, no one can stop you. That's what my grandmother used to say. And so I went out looking for a job in my field of choice and couldn't get hired because of my gender. And I did this time and time and time and time again until it became too many times for me to count. I could have sat back and just crumbled and been distraught and disappointed and look at myself as a failure. But what I did was, hell, they won't hire me. I'm just gonna start my own business. I had no idea, but again, because I was that sassy little girl that knew she was already brave, bold, and unstoppable, because I always had to fight with the boys to get seen or to hurt or pushed away, push my way up to the front. It was wisdom. Now I can look back now and say, yes, it was wisdom, but back then it was survival. And so, Laura, I would like for you to share some words of wisdom with regards to just not letting failures be the definition of you.
Make more mistakes, people. The action is the success strategy. It doesn't matter what the outcome of it is. It's a stepping stone. So step faster. So don't get stuck in your head about what this outcome meant. Detach from your outcomes and take aligned action. And mistake, failure is just a label we put on something that didn't turn out exactly how we wanted it to turn out. But what if the divine order of the universe has made it turn out exactly how it needs to turn out to get you over here where you want to go? So what if, right? Ask a lot of questions, be curious, make more mistakes, keep stepping. It's when we get paralyzed that the real problem happens. We get afraid, right? So how can you have more fun with that fear? Especially that fear of not good enough. Oh my gosh, it's boring to me now, right? So moving forward in making those steps and being curious and open and excited about what is possible, what is there for you to learn. It's not a failure, it's a lesson. It's not a failure or mistake, it's learning. And we're all kind of saying the same thing, right? In different words. It's how you switch up the way you think about it and speak about it.
I love that. I love that. Now, what would you say to the gal that is sitting in the cut in the back of the room and she knows she's bold and unstoppable, but she knows she needs some help and some guidance. And she's kind of embracing it. It's like sticking her toe in the deep end of the water, but she won't jump right in. What is some information, words of wisdom that any one of you want to share with that gal that's sitting in the back of the room? Because we all know someone that has done that and does that. And so let's uplift these ladies.
I want to continue on this thread with that piece.
Go, girl.
You are never going to have the clarity, courage, or confidence to do the thing. You have to do the thing to feel those things. So if you're sitting in the back of the room waiting to be more clear, more confident, or courageous, it's never going to happen. You're going to have to get your butt up off the chair, take the movement forward, speak the words, take the action. Then guess what? You're going to start to feel all those awesome things. So that was, yeah, oh man, I used to be the girl in the back, you guys. Like, it was torture back there.
I seriously cannot even imagine you being the girl in the back. Like, I
Me
can't.
either.
I
Me
hated that
either.
feeling. I hated it. And now I'm just like, girls in the back, come on, let's dance.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, so when it comes to getting a mentor, I think sometimes we think we know it all, especially when you're a brave, bold, unstoppable chick. You just like, I got this. But not realizing you may not have it as good as you think you got it, right? When it comes to a mentor, somebody that you've sat back in the back of the room and watched, you've admired, or people and you just you're a little hesitant to ask them to be your mentor. You don't even know if it's mentorship you want, but you want something from them. What would you say to the ladies watching that might be hesitant to really own and claim their bold and unstoppability by connecting with someone that can be a mentor for them?
I would say you got to do it. You got to make the connection. But I think the first step or the first part of that is to get in the same room. So get in the room or get in the same space as the women that you're admiring, who you want to be like. Because I think at one point or another, I think all of us were in the back of the room and we were afraid to dip our toe in. And I think there will always be that hesitation every time you level up. The room is a little bit different, and it's time to move to a different room when everybody's asking you for advice and to be mentored. Like for you, you're the mentor in the room. Now it's time for you to go to a different room, to where you don't know everything, and where everybody is necessarily, like, I won't say above you, but they're in a different playing field. And I think the more and more that you put yourself in a space with brave, bold, and unstoppable women, and they will see themselves in you. So sometimes I feel like mentorship kind of happens organically, where there's like almost like a psychic connection. You just know that this is the person that you're supposed to gravitate towards, or this is the person that you need to learn from. And I think, just like Erin, I truly believe, being a woman of faith also, that God puts you in the places and spaces you're supposed to be in the right time. And He'll put the right people in your life. But you have to take that action, that next step, to accept the help or to accept the mentorship. So take that first step. The door is open, but you have to be the one to go to the front of the room.
I love that. I love that. I think every woman watching us can relate to that. I think there's times that we've all been hesitant and felt we're too small to approach somebody because they're up on the big stage. But you know, um, if it's meant for it to happen, just step out and do it. I did that with one gal. I saw her speak at this big conference, and she was amazing. And I went up to her after. She was like a celebrity walking through, and I was like, I normally don't do that, but I went up to her and said, "I'm so proud of you. You made me feel proud. You made me feel like I was a bad chick, and I'm just sitting there listening to you." Long story short is we became friends, and we're still friends today. But in my younger self, I probably would have never done that. I would have sat back, enjoyed what she had to say, got my stuff, and went on out the room. But I wanted her to know that not only was I proud of her, that she actually touched me to make me feel like I could be that bad chick as she was describing what she was doing. And so I think it's really important that we allow other brave, bold, unstoppable women to be a part of our life. Now, this is probably like the last question. When it comes to being that brave, bold, unstoppable woman, and you've been sitting and hiding, and you know that there's more for you, and you know that you need to be out in front, but you're very scared and hesitant. I want each of you to give 3 words of wisdom or 3 things that this person, this gal that you're talking to, it could be a future child of yours, grandchild, great great grandchild, or whatever. What would you share with them? Laura, you go first.
This isn't about you. So come out of your shell. What if you stepping up to somebody else and sharing your story makes their day? So staying quiet and being, staying in that fear, not coming out of the back of the room, not asking, you might be preventing someone else's life from improving or changing because, right? And I had to talk to myself that way. Laura, this ain't about you anymore. This is about you sharing yourself in case that could help somebody else. And that changed things for me.
I love it. Erin, what would you say?
I love that, Laura. Who needs you? Or who needs your story? That's 4 words. Somebody needs that. You didn't walk through that. I love what you said, Laura. You didn't walk through that for your own, well, yes, for yourself, but it wasn't only about you. You have learned lessons that someone else needs. And so has the person that you're looking at from the back. You're in the back of the room and you're looking at that. Listen, everybody puts their socks on 1 foot at a time. Everybody uses the bathroom. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Go talk to
Everybody
them.
needs some toilet paper now and then. Crystal.
I think I would say something that my grandmother said to me, and I say this often, is to do the fearless thing. So you got to do what's going to scare you. So if it scares you, 9 times out of 10, you're on the right path. Like if it's scary to walk into the room, if it's scary to talk to that person, that's what you're supposed to do. But you got to do it. You got to take that next step. So that's kind of that's my little thermometer for am I on the right path? Like if I'm a little afraid about it, I'm like, I think I'm supposed to do it. So no growth ever comes from comfort zone. So if you're really comfortable in that choice and that decision, you're comfortable where you are, then 9 times out of 10 you're not growing. So if you want to experience that growth and you see yourself on the other side of the room or at the front of the room, you got to do what makes you uncomfortable.
I love it. Your grandma's gonna be so proud of you. She like, yeah, that's my grandbaby. She actually listened to what I was telling her.
Mm-hmm.
I know some grandmothers just have that way, right? My grandmother left some words of wisdom with me that
Yep.
on another show I'll share. But yeah, it was just absolutely amazing. Well, ladies, this is our time. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being a panelist today on the Bold Unstoppable Show. It has been my pleasure. I love all of you, and let's please stay connected. And to all of you listening and watching us, engage in conversations like this with your colleagues, your friends, your girlfriends, your ride or dies, or people you don't even know about, because you never, ever know that what you may say to them will help them to be unapologetically bold and unstoppable, or what they will share with you will help you to be unapologetically bold and unstoppable and take that first step to actually commanding your empire as the queen that you are. So I'm going to close and say, thanks again for joining us. I'm Rochele Lawson, the Queen of Feeling Fabulous. And it has been absolutely bold and unstoppable being here with my panelists and having them share words of wisdom with you. I'm getting tongue-tied. Share words of wisdom with you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And please share this with everyone you love and care about, particularly if you know a bold, unstoppable woman, or you think you know a bold, unstoppable woman, or she's hiding behind the veil, scared to reveal that she's a bold, unstoppable woman. Share this show with her, because we are going to engage in dialogue that's going to break some barriers and help all of us to connect and unite in a much stronger, greater, grander scheme of what the divine has in store for us. So until next time, y'all, bye.